Welcome to the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. I'm your host, John Serenitas. As always, I'm joined by my partner, John Sabachetti. John, how you doing on this Sunday morning?
Doing quite well, wrapped up from Christmas, looking forward to New Year's, and now we're going into week 17 of the NFL season, and it appears that we kind of know who the playoff teams are going to be, especially the AFC, but it's all determining now the seeding of where they are, including the New England Patriots, who could still be the number one seed.
Yeah, I've accepted their fate. I don't see it happening at this point, barring the Chargers win next week in Denver. They need to win out. They need the Chargers to win in Denver. Is it possible? Yeah, Broncos didn't look good the other night against the Chiefs, but I still think it's a long shot. Now, what they can win today is the AFC East. With a win and the Philadelphia Eagles win over the Buffalo Bills, the Patriots would clinch the AFC East. Unfortunately, they're not going to know whether or not they did that because that game is a 425 game. So the Patriots are going to have to wait it out. They're going to have to take care of business today. Then they're going to have to hope that the Eagles step up and do them a solid. Now, for Philadelphia, I mean, they've already clinched the division. They're not really playing for anything at this point other than potentially seeding. So you wonder, I don't think that they would rest guys potentially, but if there's a guy that doesn't necessarily need to play, they may not play in that game later on today. So I'm not sure the Patriots are going to be able to clinch the AFC East until next weekend on January 4th when they host the Miami Dolphins at Gillette Stadium. That will be their best chance if they win to clinch the AFC East. Of course, it would be their first AFC East title in 6 years since 2019 if they got it done. And when you look at today, John, the attrition game is really starting to become an issue for the Patriots. They are truly the walking wounded going into this one. 7 starters expected, or 7 key contributors / starters expected to be out today. I mean, look, football is an attrition game down the stretch. You're hanging on by a thread at any level of football. I mean, you got guys that are banged up. You go to any film session, whether it be high school, college, the NFL, you got guys limping around, ice packs all over the place. It's the nature of the game this time of year. This Patriots team, though, is really banged up. They're going to need some backup, some key depth guys stepping up and playing a big role for them today if they want to win this football game.
And they're fortunate in this sense because who they're playing today and next week. So today they play the New York Jets, who have been god-awful the last month, pretty much been god-awful the entire season, but they look like they're in tank mode. And you have Brady Cook as your starting quarterback, a rookie. And then next week you play the Miami Dolphins at Gillette, which it should be a cold game. The Dolphins probably don't want to come here. And right now they have Quinn Ewers playing quarterback for them. In the last 2 weeks, they've looked god-awful. The Patriots should be able to win these 2 games, even with these injuries. But obviously there's always a concern when nearly a third of your starters are out or questionable or something along those lines. But you should win those last 2 games, clinch the AFC East, and then, like you said earlier, hope that maybe Denver loses to the Chargers in the final game of the season. Then you're the number 1 seed. But you've got to take care of business, first of all, with the Jets. And again, we know what happens sometimes when you play within the division. Those games can be a little bit more difficult than anticipated. There's a lot of familiarity between the 2 teams. Aaron Glenn is still going to have his team pumped up for this game, just may not have the wherewithal or the talent to do so. But yeah, this is in front of the Patriots right now. They're going to have to get through this very difficult time with these injuries.
And, of course, these 2 teams have already played this season. They played a few weeks ago at Gillette Stadium on Thursday Night Football, with the Patriots winning that game. And I think one of the things that was a big takeaway for me in that game was how well the Jets ran the football. And you mentioned Brady Cook is a starting quarterback now. Justin Fields was the Jets starter in that game. I think from a Patriots perspective, their run defense, I should say, has not been the same since Milton Williams got hurt. He's going to be out again this week. Robert Spillane's going to miss his 3rd straight game. I think for the Patriots, that's going to be a key here because the Jets have any chance of winning this football game today. They're going to need to run the football, and they're going to need to play keep away from Drake May and this Patriots offense. They've proven, as well as others, they've proven that they can do that, and I suspect that the Patriots front 7 is going to get a heavy dose of this Jets running game. I think that the Jets are really, between Breece Hall and the rest of their backs, I think that they're going to make a concerted effort to run the football in this game.
Shorten the game, and also we're talking about inclement weather with rain, fairly cold temperatures. It's more conducive to the run game at that point, especially with a rookie quarterback like Brady Cook. Yeah, the Jets are going to want to make this an ugly game. Limited possessions and get it into the fourth quarter where a turnover can flip the whole side of the field and make it difficult for the Patriots. That's why it's so important to get off to that fast start for the Patriots, because if the Jets get the lead, then they can run the football, and now you're playing from behind, which you did last week in Baltimore. But again, you're playing with fire the more you try to do that. And I just look at the Jets, however, the last few weeks, they've been god-awful. They lost 29-6 at New Orleans. Give New Orleans credit. They've won 4 straight games, and they play the Patriots tough back in October. They're showing up every week and doing a good job for Kellen Moore. But, yeah, get that early lead is important because you get that thought maybe out of the Jets' head that they're going to win this game.
Two teams, of course, playing on November 13th. Patriots winning 27-14. Jets had 140 yards rushing in that game, which, even though they ran the ball pretty well, is not a lot considering their leading ball carrier in that game was Justin Fields, 11 carries for 69 yards. Again, Fields is not going to play in this game today. So it's really going to be more about how do you stop Breece Hall, how do you control the line of scrimmage and not allow them to protect Brady Cook by running the football. A.D. Mitchell, since coming over in that trade for Sauce Gardner, or as our good friend Joe Beningo likes to say, Sauce Gardner, A.D. Mitchell's been their best receiver. He's been pretty good for them. Of course, he did play in the first meeting as well. He only had 1 catch for 10 yards, but I think he and John Mechie have done a pretty good job. And if Brady Cook gets some time, that's a pretty good Jets offensive line. Those two guys could be a potential problem for the Patriots secondary. For a secondary, quite frankly, that's going to be challenged in this game, not only by those guys, but the fact that this Patriots pass rush right now is non-existent. And it's going to be even more non-existent in this game because Harold Landry is going to be out for this game. So it's really going to be Caleb Chason, Elijah Ponder, and whatever kind of pressure they get from their interior. The Patriots are going to have to blitz a lot more than they have this season in this game.
I'll go technical with you because you're an expert on this stuff, and I like to learn every day of the week from a football expert like yourself. But the Patriots have had trouble stopping the rush on the edges as well. We saw Derrick Henry was averaging 7 yards a carry last week. For some reason, Jim Harbaugh didn't play him the final 12 minutes of the game. That's still mystifying. But the Patriots on the edge, they're not able to even rush the passer or stop the run. I mean, that's a double-barrel whammy to face for a defense. What can you possibly do to try to mitigate those potential pitfalls?
There's really nothing you can do. I mean, to be honest with you, when it comes to setting the edge against the run, it comes down to your players and your players' willingness to consistently do that. So you can slant, you can angle, you can bring pressure, but there's only so much you can do as a coach. Ultimately, that's got to be a want to. Mm-hmm. They can get into some 8-man fronts. They can get their safeties involved post-snap. But at the end of the day, again, your edge defenders have to be willing to stack and shed. They have to be willing to set an edge, stack blocks, get off them, and make plays. If they're not willing to do that, there's nothing a coach can do to help them.
Yeah, no, it's just been a concern on both sides. Normally, if you can try to stop the run, maybe you give up a little in the pass game or vice versa. But they've had trouble with both the last month, especially since Milton Williams went out with that high ankle injury against the Jets back in November.
Yeah, and look, I think when if you were to rank the defenses in terms of the AFC playoff teams right now, I would not be surprised 1 through 7 if they were the 7th ranked defense in that group. I mean, that they're banged up. They haven't been able to rush the passer for the majority of the season. I think that their numbers are a little deceiving because they were doing a pretty good job of rushing the passer earlier in the season. Haven't been able to do it since, really. Caleb Chason, you can make an argument, has been their best pass rusher. Elijah Ponder, they're starting to try to develop more of a role for him. But I don't – people have already started talking about what are some of their needs this offseason. And I keep hearing wide receiver, and I scoff at that notion because I think you have enough at receiver. You can certainly fortify that room maybe on day 2 of the NFL draft or later on in free agency. But in my opinion, you need another pass rusher here. You need another guy that can play on the edge, come off the edge, and help you get to the quarterback. They don't have enough of those guys. And I think that Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf dropped the ball at the trade deadline. That was a clear need. They should have gone out and gotten someone, add a veteran, fortified for the rest of this season, and then address it long-term in the offseason. So this is something that could come back to bite them in the ass. It won't this week because the Jets suck, but it could come back to hurt them down the line, especially in the playoffs.
You mentioned the defenses in the AFC. You can make a case that the two worst defenses that will be in the playoffs in the AFC are the Patriots and the Bills. And the Steelers not too much ahead of them because their defense has not been all that great this year. But
their defense is really good on paper, but they have not been good in reality.
Right. And with TJ Watt out, and who knows when he's going to come back, that's a whole different story. But you look at Jacksonville, the Texans, Denver, and the Chargers, they all have really, really good defenses. I just think that the two teams that have the worst defenses going into the playoffs, the Bills and the Patriots, happen to have the two best quarterbacks in Josh Allen and Drake May. So this is where you start to try to balance things off. But that's playing with fire if your defense isn't good enough to stand up, because now you're putting incredible pressure on that offense.
Yeah, and you win championships with defense. I mean, as important as quarterback play is, if you're not playing good defense in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter how good your quarterback is, because if you're not getting stops, more often than not, 8 out of 10 times, your quarterback's not going to win you the game. You're going to in the playoffs. It's a collective effort. You need to play good defense in the playoffs. And right now, look, they played good defense during Baltimore's last couple possessions last week, and they were able to get the win. But they're going to need to play much better defense for 4 quarters moving forward if they want to be a legitimate contender and have a shot to get to Santa Clara in Super Bowl 60. Because, again, based on what we've seen in recent weeks, and look, health plays a big part in it. Again, you're without Milton Williams. You're without Robert Spillane. Now you're without Harold Landry. I mean, arguably those are 3 of your 5 best defensive players. It's going to be hard to stop people when you're playing with that many quality players out. You might be able to get away with it this week because the Jets are putrid on offense, but Miami could potentially give you problems the following week. And then depending on who you draw in the first round of the playoffs, you could have problems with them as well. So you need to see more out of this defense. First and foremost, they need to get healthy. If they get healthy, that's going to be huge. Once they get healthy, then you need to see more out of them, because there is talent there. I mean, to Vrabel and Wolf's credit, they did a great job reimagining that defense this offseason and really upgrading the talent. But now that talent needs to rise to the occasion, and they need to play better. And if they do, yes, the Patriots are a legitimate contender. Now, another concern for me is the turnovers. Drake May had 2 turnovers last week. He's kind of reverted back to some of the stuff he was doing at the end of last season and earlier this year with forcing balls in certain situations, not taking care of the ball in the pocket. Look, this Jets defense, the Jets aren't very good, but the Jets do a couple things well in that they can rush the passer and their special teams are really good. I think that this Jets front could give the Patriots a lot of problems, especially when you consider the fact that Jared Wilson is out this week. He's not playing. So you're back to Vidarian Lowe, Ben Brown on the left side. You got Morgan Moses, who's hobbled on the right side. Thayer Mumford is also banged up. I mean, Drake May, you talk about the Jets needing to establish the run. Patriots are going to need to establish the running game too, because Drake May could potentially be under siege in this game.
Yeah, without question. And we've seen Drake May, the first 7 games this year, John, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's a 6-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. That's like Aaron Rodgers prime as far as like 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That's just unheard of. But in the last 8 games, and they've won 7 of them, they've still won 7 of 8, but in the last 8 games, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and we've talked about him losing the ball in the pocket. Last week we saw 1 of each, right? Which he left about 6 points on the board. He threw an interception in the goal zone where they had obviously a very makeable field goal if he doesn't throw that interception. And then at the end of the second quarter, the sack fumble, that took them out of field goal range, obviously, because they turned the ball over. And they were fortunate it wasn't a strip sack and pick up and run to the end zone for Baltimore. That really would have maybe made the game almost impossible to come from behind. So he's got to do a better job of that. Because, you know, that is essential, especially if you're playing the Texans in the first round or whoever, even at Gillette Stadium. That game, a wild card game, can flip very quickly on a turnover.
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, you've got 7 starters / contributors that are going to be out for this game. Among them are Kayshon Boutte, Matt Collins. We mentioned Spillane. We mentioned Williams. I mean, look, Matt Collins has been terrific for them. He was big for them in this past week's game. And he's come up big with them at various points this season, as has Kayshon Boutte. Those are going to be 2 big losses. You also have Pop Douglas, who's banged up. So, again, this is going to be a game. Travion Henderson's banged up. He got the concussion last week, left the game, didn't return. He had the red non-contact jersey on Wednesday. On Friday, he was back in his white jersey. It appears he's going to play, but he is also listed as questionable. So, I think when you look at the Patriots right now in terms of where they're at and what they need to do to win this football game, this game's going to be about how do you get the running backs more involved, how do you get the tight ends more involved. It's going to be a running back tight end game in the passing game because, again, receiver-wise right now, you have Stephon Diggs, you have Kyle Williams, you'll have Efton Chisholm more than likely, but you also have a nicked-up Pop Douglas. It does not bode well for a team that needs to throw the football effectively to win. Game plan this week's got to be run the football, play action, shorten the game, and get the hell out of there healthy because, again, when you look at where they're at right now in terms of the injury report, they're in a pretty tough spot.
Yeah, and this could be a big game for Hunter Henry, obviously, right, who's old reliable. He's been outstanding this year when they've needed him. If you can go to him and he comes up with a few big plays, that can be the difference, as well as this offense at least taking care of business. But this does have the makings of this ugly game, maybe with a lot of turnovers from both sides because of the weather and because a lot of the skilled people are out, and it's going to be more of a defensive game. And, you could be looking at like a 19-10 game, which, you know what? You win the game, you move on, you stay as healthy as you can, and then you hope that Buffalo loses to the Eagles, which could happen. If not, you got to wrap up business against the Miami Dolphins in Week 18, which you should be able to at home, probably in frigid conditions. It's right there for them, but right now they're not playing with a full deck.
No. Patriots are favored in this game by 13.5. I would not touch this game.
No.
From a betting standpoint.
Not at all. No, I mean, with that type of line, you need a 20-point lead late in the game because you can always get hurt by the backdoor cover. If the Jets score a meaningless touchdown, all of a sudden it's a 13-point game. It's not going to be a high-scoring game, I don't think. Sometimes we get surprised by that, but I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Might be a lot of field goals, and when that's the case, 13.5 is a lot of points to lay on the road against a divisional rival, even though the Jets are one of the 5 worst teams in football, and you're playing to try to clinch the AFC East. It's still a lot of points.
I think the over-under is a better play. If you want to put money on this game, 42.5, I'd play the under, to be honest with you. I would play the under. I could see this being a 2010, 21-14 kind of game. Could the Patriots hit 28 potentially and win 28-7? Sure, but you're still under. So I would play the under. I don't. And the only reason I don't see the Patriots blowing them out, John, it's more about what the Patriots don't have than what the Jets have and what the Jets can do. I think at the end of the day, missing that many quality players on either side of the ball, I think ultimately keeps this game close. So if you're looking to bet this game, you take the Jets at plus 13.5 and bet the under. I think those are your safest bets for this game, or do some prop bet stuff potentially. But even then, prop bets are tough, man. They're tough in a game like this because let's say you wanted to play a plus 250 in terms of yardage for Drake May as a prop bet. Well, he doesn't have his full complement. So is he going to get to 250? I mean, he didn't have his first career 300 game until last week. So who knows? But yeah, this is one that if you have an option and a choice, you might want to stay away from betting this one. And if you do, go under 13.5 or take the under overall. But even prop bet wise, not a good play. And again, you mentioned this to start the show. I mean, the Jets have just been awful. And there's a lot of question marks with this organization. Sure, they played the Patriots somewhat tough the first time they met on November 13th. But realistically speaking, this is a bad football team. They're in position to potentially be picking first or second overall. They need a lot of players. They traded 2 of their best players, arguably their 2 best players, at the midway point in Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams to acquire first-round picks. It's really now up to Darren Muji, GM Darren Muji, and ownership now to figure out what do they want to do with this football team, because it's great to have all these picks, John, but if you don't pick the right players, and the Jets have proven that they are not capable of picking the right players through the years, if you don't pick the right players, it's not going to matter. And the Jets, by the way, are a prime example for Patriot fans who bellyache about how bad things have been lately. I'm like, you've been bad for 3 years. The Jets have sucked ass for a long time. So you're not going to get any sympathy from me, Patriot fans, if you expect me to sit here and be like, oh, You win 4-13 in back-to-back years after a 20-plus year dynastic run. Please spare me. The Jets are the epitome, I should say, of hot garbage. They blow, they suck, and I don't see it getting any better as I choke.
You should get very emotional about that.
I am, man. I am. I'm all choked up, literally.
Dan Campbell, not making the playoffs this year, got very emotional. But
I mean,
when you
Skip, stop puking, man. That must mean we didn't make the playoffs, man.
Well,
I'm going to go have a Starbucks and listen to Metallica in the car, man.
That sounds good. You do that. Aaron Glenn obviously seems to try to take a little bit of Dan Campbell and a little bit of Bill Parcells, but you have to be your own man as a coach. You can't have the same personality as two other coaches that you played for, coached under. That's what Aaron Glenn seems to be dealing with right now, trying to find his own persona. The Jets have not made the playoffs since 2010. Their last playoff win came at Gillette Stadium in the divisional round in 2010. Then they went ahead.
There, I know.
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest games in the 25-year run of the Patriots. It made no sense. The Patriots were on a roll going into that. I think they had beaten the Jets like 42-3, like 6 weeks earlier. And then the Jets come in here and win 28-21. And then the Jets ended up losing to the Steelers.
Pittsburgh in the AFC
Championship game. And then our Packers took care of business in the Super Bowl. But when you look at the Jets, no playoff appearances since 2010. That is the longest drought of any team in the four major sports. That is god awful. I mean, 7 of the 16 teams in each conference make the playoffs now. It's built that you can turn things around. If you're not good for a while, you get high draft picks. They can't get the quarterback position right. They haven't gotten the quarterback position right probably since Joe Namath retired or went to the Rams in 1977. I mean, Richard Todd, Kenny O'Brien were okay. Aaron Rodgers last year put up actually the best numbers any Jets quarterback has put up over the last 50 years, and they ran him out of town. They can't get that position right, but they do have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years. They have their own. They have 2 from Indianapolis and 1 from Dallas. Can they get a quarterback in this draft? You're not high on the quarterbacks coming out this year. I mean, Fernando Mendoza looks like he should be a solid pick. But right now, if the Raiders end up with the first overall pick, the Raiders are going to take Mendoza. If the Giants have the first pick, they're probably going to trade that first pick because they feel like they have their quarterback in Jackson Dart. But are the Giants going to trade the first overall pick to the Jets? I don't know if that really would happen. They're going to help the Jets find a quarterback. So that's part of the reason the Jets just can't get any traction. Look, when they went to back-to-back AFC Championship games in 2009, 2010, Mark Sanchez was the quarterback. I mean, so they just haven't been able to nail that position for so long. And you're so right, John. People around here complaining about the Patriots back-to-back 4-13 seasons, and now you're 12-3. You've got a franchise quarterback, we think, and you're right back in the playoff hunt, and you may be the 1 or the 2 seed going into the playoffs. I mean, it's a quick turnaround, but they did the right thing. They brought in the right coach, drafted the right quarterback, put the pieces around, and the rest is history.
Well, it's interesting because they'll go back further than that. They'll go back to the COVID season and say, well, they went 7-9 that year.
Right.
Fair enough. They were much more competitive that year than they were at any point in the last 2 years. Then they went 10-7, made the playoffs, lost in the wild card round to Buffalo, Mac Jones's rookie year. Followed that up in 2022 with the Patricia Judge co-offensive coordinator year, where they win 8-9. But dare I remind people that 8-9 year, had they gone up to Buffalo and won in Week 18, they would have made the playoffs.
Yep.
And then you go 4-13 and 4-13. Now, look, I'm going to be that guy. I'm not counting the 7-9 COVID season. Whatever. It happened. I'm not saying it didn't happen. You want to count it, fine. They've been bad 3 of the last 6 years. But at the end of the day, you went 10-7 and made the playoffs in 21, 8-9 in 22 on the doorstep of the playoffs. You really have only been bad 3 of the last 6 years. And even that 7-9 year, they had a couple big wins that year. They were highly competitive. They were in a lot of games. Like, it's really been the last 2 years that they've been bad. Patriot fans have nothing to complain about. If you've only been bad for 2 years, of course, we don't know what the future holds. But if you've been bad really for only 2 years, I don't want to hear the complaining. By the way, I failed to mention this earlier. Matt Collins was put on injured reserve by the Patriots. So that means the earliest he can come back is the playoffs. Means he's going to miss a minimum of 4 weeks. So at this point, the earliest you get him back, assuming you get there, is the divisional playoff game. Possibly, assuming you get there, the AFC Championship game looks like a more realistic bet. So this team is really banged up. And, of course, he has an abdominal issue. But, yeah, look, it's a game of attrition. And right now, they're just in a bad spot in terms of their physical health. But this is a big loss for this football team. Mac has been terrific for them.
He sure has. Not only is he a deep threat, and we saw a couple of very nice catches throughout the season where he can extend the field. He's a big receiver, 6'4". He's also a phenomenal blocker. I think a lot of the times you look at him, and if you see one of the running backs putting together a 15, 20-yard run, he's probably on the field making a key block. So missing him is going to be a problem. I think he has a good vibe with Drake May. So, yeah, these are all issues that the Patriots are going to be facing the final 2 weeks and then get running for the playoffs. You talked about that 8-9 season the Patriots had in 2022. If they had won at Buffalo, as you said, they would have made the playoffs. Buffalo had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns in that game, if I remember. And the Patriots lost to Minnesota on Thanksgiving in a close game. I think they had the ball.
There was 3 different points at the end of that season they could have clinched a playoff spot, and they didn't.
Yeah, they had the Bengals. They were down 4, and they had the ball inside the 5-yard line, and Ramondre Stevenson fumbled. I mean, they were going in for potentially the game-winning.
It was Thanksgiving night they lost to Minnesota. That was Christmas Eve.
Yep.
That was a Christmas Eve game against the Bengals here.
Yep. I think it was a 4-point game at that point, 5-point game, whatever. They were going in for the winning score, and he fumbled. So, yeah, there were a lot of close games. They weren't that far away. In fact, people were, looking forward to the next year. Then Belichick, it kind of just unraveled at that point. The Mayo decision was not good. There wasn't enough talent. But now you've got everything in place that you think you can keep a good run going here. Is it going to be a 20-year run like Brady and Belichick? No, probably not. That's unheard of. But you feel good over the next 5-6 years with the quarterback you have, with the coach you have, and with some of the free agent signings you made last offseason that you're going to be there in contention year after year.
Some of the roster moves that the Patriots did make ahead of today's game against the Jets. Jeremiah Farms has been signed to the 53-man roster, as has defensive back Kobe Minor, who they took in last year's draft, and defensive lineman Leonard Taylor III. They've all been elevated from the practice squad, and they're all expected to play in today's game against the Jets. What are 3 keys to the game for the Patriots, John, today against the Jets?
Turnovers. Do not give the ball up. I think that Drake May's been a little turnover prone the last 8 weeks, as we said, 6 interceptions, 3 fumbles that he's lost. Here's a statistic I can't believe. In 15 games, the New York Jets defense has not registered an interception. That almost seems impossible, right? I mean, because
it's hard to do.
Exactly, because you would think a tip would go awry and they get an interception and the quarterback has a bad read. The quarterback and the wide receiver aren't on the same page. Quarterback throws it where he thinks the receiver is going to be. He's not. The defensive back is there. No interceptions in 15 games. That just blows my mind. You'd think that by accident there'd be 1 or 2. So take care of the football. Get Drake May going in that direction of taking care of the football for the last 2 games of the season. The weather's going to be a factor. And then when you get to the playoffs, you're playing teams that can force turnovers. So that, to me, is issue number 1, because that's the easiest way to keep the Jets in the game is turnovers. I think we're going to have a big game from Hunter Henry because, again, you're kind of stretched thin on the wide receivers. Hunter Henry could be a very, very important part of this game. And, again, as you said earlier, controlling the running game of the Jets. That's the only way the Jets are going to move the football on you. I don't think Brady Cook is going to light up the scoreboard in his, 2nd or 3rd NFL start. But the Jets can run the football because Breece Hall is a very good running back. And that offensive line can still create some holes. So containing that running game, I think, is going to be an essential thing for the Patriots. So take care of the football. Get Hunter Henry involved because he's going to be your safety net at some point, and also contain the Jets running game because they really don't have any other way to score.
Yeah, and again, look, games like this are tricky. You're at the end of the year. You got a team like the Jets who are playing out the string. It's to their benefit to lose these next 2 games because you can secure a top 3 pick. You finish 3-14. But as we've said for years now, you're not – good luck telling that to these guys in that locker room that, hey, we're playing out the string and we want to lose. That ain't going to happen. Okay. Guys are going to come out. They're going to play their tails off because they're not just playing for the New York Jets. They're playing for their careers. Some of these guys are going to be free agents. Some of these guys won't be on the Jets next year. So they need to play well, put out good tape, make a favorable impression. So from a Patriots standpoint, the Jets aren't going to roll over and play dead for you. They're a proud organization. They've got a lot of guys on that team with a lot to play for individually. They're going to come to play, no doubt about that. This is going to be a competitive game. And as we said earlier, perhaps the biggest reason of all that it is going to be a competitive game is the length of the Patriots injury report. They've got a lot of guys out for this game today. And I think that your depth guys are going to have to step up. That's another key. If I had to add to your 3 keys, you need your depth guys to step up and play meaningful snaps for you. If they do, you win this football game. But again, listen, if you allow them to hang around early, you go 3 and out your first 2 or 3 possessions, you give up an early score, you turn the ball over, you allow them to hang around. This isn't basketball. There's no 10-0 runs in football. Once momentum picks a sideline, it goes there and it stays there typically. So if you're the Patriots, you cannot fall behind early and allow them to seize momentum and play with that momentum and carry the play. You need to be the one that is dictating terms in this game, because if you are, you'll take care of business and you'll win. And I think ultimately that's the goal here. And of course, the other thing is they can't afford any more injuries, man. You're an injury or 2 away for this football team from potentially being derailed come playoff time. That's where they are right now.
Just to correct myself from earlier, I say the Jets are in tank mode. Maybe management's in tank mode. The players are never in tank mode. As you said, they're professionals. They have a lot of pride. You can't play that sport going through the motions, right? Because you're setting yourself up to get injured at a very high level. I don't think Aaron Glenn is wired to tank games. He's a very competitive guy. Loves Dan Campbell, loves Bill Parcells. Those are his 2 coaching icons that I think he really leans on. They're going to play as hard as they can. Again, management can step in and say, don't play this guy, don't play this guy, play this guy. We'll see what happens with that. They're just not a very good football team right now. So they'll still show up. Again, when you talk about games within the division, those can be really, really tough. I mean, even if the team is not very good, I remember last year the Patriots were not very good. They went up to Buffalo. Buffalo was on a roll, and the Patriots lost 24-21 in Buffalo. That was I saw that game as a good statement game, that they still were trying to build something and being competitive against a team that eventually they're going to have to beat to win the division. So, yeah, we hear culture, and I think it is a thing in any sport, but so much in football that we're building something here. We're going to be competitive, and we're going to make sure that the Patriots, when they leave the field, know they've had a game.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And culture is going to be a big part of this one. It's going to be a big part of it. You're going to have to lean on that culture that's been established by Mike Vrabel to win this football game, because you're going to be gutting it out. That's the reality of it. And this is the ultimate do whatever it takes game. You know what I mean? Their mantra this year has been, we all we got, we all we need. Well, listen, this is all you have. And if you really, truly believe that this is all you need, well, then you're going to need to do whatever it takes to go out there and win this game. And I think games like this come down to your locker room, the guys in your locker room, their level of pride, their level of competitiveness. How much do they want to win a game? How much do the backups, the 2s and the 3s, want to step up and take advantage of the opportunity that they have now and help this football team win? This is going to be a culture test for the Patriots for sure.
You cover the team on a daily basis. You're in the locker room talking to the players. You observe Drake May. Is Drake May ready to be that guy in his second season, to be the guy that says, boys, we've got to take business seriously today? I know they're not on paper a very good football team, but they're in our division. They're going to show up. We've got to show up to make sure we take care of business. Is he quite at that level yet? He's 23 years old, and he's just grown so much this year. But I wonder, is he ready to step up to be that guy?
Yes, he's there right now, in my opinion, 100%. Yep. He has that presence in the locker room. He has the respect of his teammates and his coaches. He carries himself much differently this year than he did last year, from my observation. So, yes, 100%. I definitely think he has the cachet and the aura to demand of his teammates and to demand that they give more. And I think that they will give more. They'll listen to him. They'll listen to Vrabel. You don't go 12-3 by accident. I don't give 2 shits what your schedule is. You go 12-3 because you're well coached, you have talent, and you take advantage of your schedule. And the Patriots check off all 3 boxes. But to answer your question, no doubt in my mind, I think he has the cachet and the pull to demand more from his teammates and to get more. So that will be tested this week, but I do think he can definitely get more out of them. All right, John, what is a final score prediction here from you in regards to this game?
I like your idea of the under 42.5. That may continue to go down as we get close to kickoff, but I think Patriots 19-9, like a weird score, a lot of field goals. The Patriots have had trouble the red zone defense, but against the Jets don't really present many problems. 19-9, some kind of weird score like that. The game ends. Hopefully you stay healthy and you move on and win yet another game and get ready for week 18 against the Dolphins. It's not going to be pretty, but a win is a win is a win.
All right. Great stuff as always, John. Always good to hear from you. Enjoy the game today, and we'll be back next week to preview the Dolphins game.
All right, brother.
All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. For John Sapichetti, I'm John Sarandidis. We will be back with you next week for the Miami Dolphins game. Until then, enjoy the game today, and Happy New Year from us to you. Peace.